same person who saw you yesterday. Oh,
She can say she
this is a sharp mother.
yeah.
Absolutely.
She still understand about the second day. That's what she saw me yesterday.
And you had the thing filled out for
What happened about the and I told her, somebody helped me yesterday. The person was not here. And I said, and I said, there's not any clearance for him. Okay. Oh, it's the same lady, yeah.
Other people are going through it. And even when I call the office, the guy is just, he doesn't listen to me. I understand what you're saying. I'm trying to drag the results in. No, you don't understand. I'm telling you, this person is doing this kind of me, and she needs to be here by now. And, well, I can understand your situation. I said, no, you don't understand. I just hung up. I'm calling somebody.
He came out, I just like him up and said, no. Okay, I wasn't there yet.
On the top, it says application for right?
Certainly, certainly. I have to hear. Yeah, I like it. I guess somebody wasn't. This is the one that they gave me. The application. I showed it. But it's okay. It works out. Okay. Thank you, sir. We're not going to let it.
And unfortunately, that's what happens.
It was very pretty yesterday.
Yesterday was hot, wasn't it? I went out at lunchtime and it was obviously not.
Well, I had something, but on Fridays, Fridays I do all day. They reminded me today. I go, oh yes, yes.
Morning, everybody. It's now 10:15.
Oh, really? Because you're supposed to have 10 at least, right? Yeah. Oh. How long has he been the president of the I mean, I don't know much about him, but he seems to be doing really well. Actually, it's fine.
No, he's expensive. But, kind of open security.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and when is the election? Is it it's March, right? March for the council, yeah. And then governor is coming up in November, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, for governor. I know. I know. We're thinking about that. That's right. The Green Party, the Peace Party. Yeah, the politics is interesting, but you have to have very thick skin and really not take anything personally.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's kind of a lot of ups and downs. I personally don't aspire at all, never have, but and it's a lot of hard work for them to establish relationships, it's to juggle, to try to please everyone, because you're always going to have a right and a left, and you never make mistakes. So, I mean, it takes a lot of courage and hard work. It's something I wouldn't, I never have, but I admire them, but, from far. I saw that. I mean, I don't know him, but and then Hernandez seeing him. You see also? Oh. Yeah. Especially with the situation.
Well, and it's also, I mean, that's my coming with
Good morning, everybody, and welcome again to City Hall and
Buenos
to the
días,
meeting of the Los Angeles
bienvenidos
City Council
a la
for today,
reunión del
Wednesday,
Concilio de la
February
Ciudad de Los
13th,
Ángeles.
2002.
Hoy es el 13 de
It's now
febrero de
about
2002.
10:20. Thank you for your patience. We had a
Gracias
couple of
por
our
su
committees run a little bit
paciencia.
late this morning. We are now ready to begin. City Council meets every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday at
El
about 10
Concilio de
a.m.
Los Ángeles se reúne
You're
cada
always invited
martes,
to come
miércoles y
and
viernes.
participate here
Bienvenidos
with us in City Hall.
cuando deseen
You can also view us
participar.
live from home
También
on your
pueden
cable station,
vernos
Channel
a través de la
35.
estación de cable, canal
View us via webcast from
35.
the city's homepage or listen via council phone. Madam
También
Clerk,
por
please call the roll.
través telefónica.
Bernstein,
Alfaro,
Galanter, Garcetti,
llame
Hahn, Holden,
al
Labange,
señor
Miskowski, Pacheco,
Holden,
Perry,
Garcetti,
Reyes, Within,
Pacheco,
Thomas, White, signed
Reyes,
Padilla,
Rice,
11 members
signed
present, a quorum, Mr.
Padilla.
President.
Thank you very
11
much.
miembros
First order of business,
presentes.
please.
Empezamos
Approval of the
la
minutes.
orden del día. Aprobación de
Mr.
la
Pacheco moves
agenda.
and
Señor
Mr. Bernstein
Pacheco,
seconds.
presenta moción. El señor
Commendatory resolutions for
Weiss,
approval.
segundo.
Mr. Garcetti moves
Resoluciones
and Mr.
para
Weiss seconds.
On the regular
aprobación.
agenda, Mr. President, items
Señor
1,
presidente,
2, and
cuestiones
3
uno,
are
dos y
confirmation
tres
of
son
Board of Building and
confirmaciones
Safety
de
Commissioners.
Los comisionados
If
de
we can
seguridad
ask
y
the three
edificio.
commission nominees to please come forward at this
Los
time.
tres comisionados pasen por favor ahora.
Members' public hearing,
Miembros,
consideration
audiencia
of
pública,
the
consideración de
commission
la
nominees has been held in committee.
comisión se ha llevado a cabo en
Are
un
there any members wishing
comité.
to
¿Algunos
speak?
miembros
Mr.
que
Reyes.
desean ser escuchados, señor Reyes?
Thank you, Council President.
Gracias,
Colleagues, I
colegas.
just wanted to ask our
Solamente
commissioners,
quiero pedir a
just give
nuestros
us a quick,
comisionados
quick statement
que den
on
una
your
declaración
background work of building
breve
and safety
en
and the goals
cuanto a
you hope to
las
achieve
metas
being on
de
this commission.
historial y lo que quieren lograr como parte de esta
Anyone
comisión.
can start.
Alguien puede empezar. quien
Well, I'm
sea.
very anxious to work with the
Yo
city of Los Angeles, especially
estoy
with
muy animada de
Andrew
trabajar con la ciudad de Los
and his
Ángeles,
whole
con
team.
Andrew y todo
And I
su
think at this point, the Building and
equipo. Creo
Safety
que ahora
Commission
la
is
Comisión
one of
de
the
Building and
greatest ones
Safety
that we
es una de
have,
las
and that
mejores
whole
que
unit is
tenemos
really
y toda esa
terrific.
unidad es
And I look forward to working
maravillosa.
with
Y
all of
yo
you
espero
and
con
with
mucho
Andrew and his team.
esperanza trabajar con ustedes, con Andrew y con todo su grupo.
Very enthused or very
Estoy muy
excited to work with
entusiasmado,
Andrew
muy
and his group, Building
contento
and
de trabajar
Safety.
con
Since,
ustedes.
as I read, has done a lot of things in the past.
Esta comisión ha hecho
and,
muchas cosas, ha logrado
very
mucho
excited to
en el
work
pasado.
with,
Estoy muy contenta de
Andrew and
poder
his
trabajar
staff,
con Andrew y
as
con
well as
su
the,
equipo, tanto
people who
con
got stuck,
las personas
stockholders in this.
que participan en este departamento. Gracias.
Well, I'm really anxious also,
estoy
like
también muy ansioso
two
de
commissioners to be,
ser parte de
work
esta
with
comisión,
everybody
de
here,
trabajar
yeah.
con todos
it is
mis compañeros
exciting,
aquí. Estoy muy contento.
and I really am looking forward to
Veo
help the
con
city of
mucho
LA
ánimo
if,
a poder
in
asistir a la
every
ciudad de
way
Los
that
Ángeles
I
en
can
cualquier
contribute
forma,
to it.
manera que yo pueda hacerlo. Muchas
Just want to make
gracias.
a quick
También
note that I
quiero
do need
hacer
for you to
especial
submit your
rápidamente
city
que necesito
ethics
que ustedes
forms.
presenten
You
sus
want to just make sure you
formularios de
review
la
your
ciudadana
files.
para poder
One
repasar
of
sus
the commissioners
archivos.
is missing
Uno
their
de los
form still,
comisionados
so
falta,
that's important to
el
complete the
formulario de
process
los
as well.
comisionados es muy importante
with
que
that,
todos sus
Council
formularios estén
President.
presentes para completar
you.
este
Ms.
proceso.
Hahn.
Es todo. Señora Han,
Thank you very much.
muchas gracias.
Well, our hot item on the city council recently has been the billboard issue.
principal en este
And as you
concilio es
know,
la
we
cuestión de los
are
rótulos.
putting a
Como
lot
ustedes saben,
of
estamos poniendo
our
mucha de nuestra
emphasis
énfasis
and we're hoping
y esperamos
resources
que
in to the building and
recursos
safety
al-
for
la Comisión de
inventory,
Seguridad
for
de
enforcement.
Edificios para
We really feel
inventario,
like
para
there's a
que
big
se lleve a
issue with
cabo,
illegal
porque
billboards
hay muchas
right
cuestiones
now in the city of Los
sobre
Angeles. So
rótulos
I'd like to know what
ilegales
each
ahora en la
one
ciudad
of
de Los
you
Ángeles, por lo tanto quiero
feels on
saber
this issue,
qué piensa con
how
ustedes
much
sobre esta
resources
cuestión,
you
cuántos
feel should be
recursos piensan
devoted
ustedes que
in the
debemos
department to the
otorgarles al
citing, the
departamento
inventory,
en
and
cuanto al
the hopefully
inventario, la investigación,
getting rid
es
of the
así
illegal
poder
billboards in the city of Los Angeles.
quitar
Councilman
la
Hahn,
cuestión de los
we
rótulos
have
en
been
Los
reading
Ángeles.
a lot in the
Hemos estado leyendo
newspapers, and that's
mucho en
been
los
it, and you can't take
periódicos.
everything from the newspapers.
Claro, no podemos
And I
copiar todo
believe
lo que dicen los
that
periódicos.
this
Y yo
group,
creo que este
including
grupo,
me, would have to
incluyéndome,
look at all of the
tenemos que
facts
repasar todos
before
los
we make a
hechos
knee-jerk
antes
decision
de
on any of
hacer
that.
una
And we're looking forward to
presentar una
digging into all of the
decisión
facts
y
before making a decision
esperamos
for the
repasar
best
todos
interest
los
for the
hechos
city of
antes de
Los
una decisión para el
Angeles.
mejor interés para la ciudad de Los Ángeles.
Same here, I will study the
Igualmente,
issue and
yo
make
estudiaré esta
appropriate
cuestión
action
y
to take
presentaré
forward.
acción adecuada en cuanto a una recomendación.
The two commissioners to be have already said mostly everything.
Mis dos
I
compañeros
also
comisionados
have
han
heard
dicho
a few
más
things
bien
about
lo que
these
yo
issues,
iba
but
a reiterar.
first we
Repasaré
need
estas
to get all of the
cuestiones,
facts,
pero tenemos que
and
recibir
once
todos los
looking them over,
hechos,
naturally
los
we'll try to do the
repasaremos,
best we
trataremos de
can
hacer lo
in
mejor
bringing
dentro
a
de nuestra
decision
capacidad
for the
antes
best
de llegar a
interest
una
of the city of
decisión
LA.
para que sea bajo mejor interés de la
Mr.
ciudad de
Labange.
Los Ángeles. Señor Labange.
Thank you, Mr. President,
Señor
members of the
presidente,
council, new commissioners, congratulations. Thank you
felicitaciones.
for your
Muchas
service
gracias por su
to Los
servicio,
Angeles.
comisionados a la ciudad de
Building
Los
and safety is
Ángeles.
extremely
El
important
building
in
and
every
safety es
aspect.
sumamente
We
importante
count
en
on
todo
our police department
aspecto.
for so many things,
Contamos con
but it's
nuestro
often,
departamento policial
it's
para
our other
muchas
brother and
cosas,
sister
pero es
agencies that
nuestras
are
otras
the
agencias,
problem
hermanos y
that
hermanas
relates to
que
the community
sobre
problem
los
that
problemas que están
has
sobre
the
nuestra
ability to get the
comunidad.
police
Ellos tienen
involved
la
in some
habilidad de
things.
pueden incluir a la
Community-based
policía
policing,
involucrada en
community-based
nuestros lugares, por
government, you're
ejemplo, el
part of
gobierno
it.
dentro de la
And
comunidad.
you're going to be leading that. I just wanted to thank you for your service.
Vigilancia de la
I
comunidad.
also,
Quiero
just to
dar
put on
gracias
the
por su
table
servicio.
there,
También quiero
in the future,
mencionar
we
que en
talk
el
about
futuro
compressed work
hablamos
schedules
acerca de
for the police
nuestros horarios
department.
de trabajo,
I want to see
bastante
inspectors working on
ocupados de parte
weekends,
del departamento
whether
policial.
people
Quiero
are
ver
doing
que los
illegal
ciudadanos
construction.
trabajen entre
Just
en
came
los
from a
fines de
case in
semana,
the
donde hay
Hollywood
personas que
Hills.
están
I don't know if there was any
edificando
illegal
ilegalmente.
construction
No
going
viene
on, but
de
it was
Hollywood,
alleged
no
that
sé
there were
si
illegal construction going
está
on.
haciendo edificaciones
And
de
if we had
edificios
building, and this
están siendo
project has been
creados
going on for
ilegalmente,
many
pero ese
years,
proyecto está
but if we had
ya
building
pasando por
inspectors
muchos
working
años, pero
regularly,
tenemos
we
inspectores
could
de
probably curb
edificios
some of
trabajando
that. And
regularmente,
working
quizás
with the
podemos
management of the
evitar que
department,
esto
Mr.
se
Edelman, and
lleve a
everybody
cabo.
will
Y si
hopefully
todas
be an
las
effective
personas
way to
esperamos
serve
que
all people
podrán,
from San Pedro to
prestar
Chatsworth
servicio a
and
todas
from
las personas
Boyle
de San
Heights
Pedro,
to Venice,
Chatsworth, de
because
Boyle Heights
our
hasta
building
porque
stock is a very important
edificios, nuestro
part
inventario de
of
edificios es
our
una
asset of
área,
the city. And
un
we
valor
have
muy
great neighborhoods
importante
and
para
great people, so I just
Los
wanted to
Ángeles,
thank you
grandes
and kind of whet your
comunidades y
appetite about something in
población.
the
Muchas
future so that
gracias.
we could
Y por lo tanto quiero darles
encourage building and
esta
safety
breve
to be there where the people need
información
us
para
most, need them most.
que
Thank you.
tengan algo que
Ms. Perry.
ver para el futuro. Muchas
Thank you
gracias,
very much,
señora
Mr. President.
Perry.
I'm
Muchas
very
gracias.
familiar with Mr.
Estoy muy
Armatique and Ms.
familiarizado
Boudreau, and
con
I'm sorry
estos
I
miembros de la
don't know
comisión.
Mr.
Disculpen,
Arizona
no
as well, but
conozco al
I'm
señor
sure that I
Arizona, pero
will
estoy
over
seguro
the
que lo
next several
conoceré
months.
en los siguientes
And I would like to know what your
actualmente.
thoughts
Quiero
are.
saber qué
I've
piensan
spoken with
ustedes. He hablado
Mr. Edelman in the
con el
last
señor
week or
Edelman
so
en la última
about the
semana
public safety
sobre la
issues as they
seguridad
relate to
del
building and safety in the
público y
9th Council
cómo
District.
se relacionan con
Even
la
more
seguridad
so
de
in
los
the southern
edificios.
part of the
Distrito 9,
district
mucho
where
más
compliance
en la
has
parte
lagged
sur
behind
del
over the
distrito,
past
donde
several years,
las
and there's an enormous
regulación,
amount of
no han sido llevadas a cabo los últimos
uses
varios
such
años,
as
y
prostitution,
utilizaciones
motels,
como
recycling
prostitución,
centers, and while we have a
moteles,
revocation
centros de reciclo,
process
tenemos
to
un
address
proceso de
those, the revocation
modificación para
process
renovar
is
estos. Este
tedious and
proceso
slow,
es bastante
and I have always been
despacio
hopeful and
y muy
interested in trying to
detallado, y
use
siempre-
building
yo
and
siempre
safety in a
estoy,
way that's
con
more
mucha esperanza de
non-traditional
tratar
in
de
enforcement and
utilizar
compliance,
este
in addressing and responding
departamento
to those
de building
concerns. So I
and
was wondering
safety
if
para
either,
así
any of
poder
you had any thoughts on that.
Well, the quality of
mejorar
life
estos
for every citizen in
asuntos.
Los
La calidad de
Angeles
vida para
is very
todos los
important to
ciudadanos de la
me,
ciudad de Los Ángeles es de suma
Councilwoman,
importancia para mí,
because
concejala, porque
it's bad for someone in the
es
valley,
malo para
it's
que
bad for
alguien
someone
en
in
el
South
valle, es malo
Central.
para alguien
It's
en
bad
el
for
sur
someone in
centro,
South
es
Central,
malo
it's
para
bad for
alguien
the
en el sur
valley,
centro,
the east,
para
the
el
west.
valle, el este, el
But all of the
oeste, pero
citizens
todos los
in Los
ciudadanos
Angeles
en Los
deserve
Ángeles
a good
merecen
quality of life.
una mejor
And as
calidad
one
de
commissioner,
vida,
I will
y como
work to
comisionado
make sure
yo trabajaré
that
duramente
all of
para
our
asegurarnos que
citizens
todos
get
nuestros
equal
ciudadanos
opportunity
reciban
for a good
oportunidad
quality of life.
igual para la calidad de vida.
It's the
Para
same
una mejor
here.
calidad de vida. Igualmente,
I believe that
creo yo
everybody in the
que
city of
todos
LA
en la ciudad de Los
should be
Ángeles
given equal
se les debe de otorgar
Um,
oportunidad
So
igual para mejoramiento
we'll
de
make
calidad
sure
de
the
vida.
commissioner
Nos aseguramos que como comisionados
What I'm looking
tengan
for
una
is
oportunidad. Lo que
heavier
estoy
and
buscando
more
es
focused compliance
se han
in the
enfocado
residential
ustedes
areas.
en llevar a cabo reglamentos en áreas residenciales.
I'm looking forward to making sure that
Quiero
all of those needs
me
are
aseguraré
met.
que esas necesidades
And I'll do is the best in my power
alcanzadas. Haré todo
to
dentro de
make
mi
sure
poder
that
para
that is
asegurarnos que esto
done for the
se haga
betterment of
para
the
el
city.
mejoramiento de esta ciudad. Muchas gracias.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Any other members wishing to be
¿Algún otro
heard?
miembro desea hablar?
Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please open the
Por favor,
roll,
ábrase
the
el
confirmation of
voto,
the commission nominees
confirmación
before us,
de los nominados de la Comisión
close the
de Nosotros,
roll,
ciérrese el voto,
tabulate the vote.
cuente el
12
voto.
ayes.
12 sí.
Congratulations, you are confirmed.
Felicitaciones.
Thank you.
Han sido confirmados como comisionados del Departamento de Building and Safety.
Forthwith, please.
Procedamos.
Next item.
Next items, Mr. President, items for which public hearings have been held, items 4 through 8.
Public hearings have been held on items 4 through 8. Members wishing to call any specials. Number 4 calls called
como
special
especial.
by Mr.
Número
Garcetti.
4, señor Garcetti, lo nombró como especial.
Any other specials?
¿Algún otro especial? 6
6
y 8
and
por el
8 called
señor
special by Mr.
Holden.
Holden. Any others?
¿Algún otro?
4, 6, and 8
4,
called
6 y
special,
8
leaving items 5
nombrados
and
como
7.
categorizados como especial.
If there are no further specials, Madam Clerk, please open the roll
Ábrase
on
el
items
voto
5
en
and 7.
cuestiones 5 y 7.
Close the roll,
Cierres el
tabulate the
voto.
vote.
Cuente
12
voto.
ayes.
12
Those
sí.
are approved.
Han sido
Next item,
aprobados.
please.
Next items, Mr. President, items for which public hearings have not been held, items 9 through 31.
Items 9 through 31 before us. I do not have requests from members of the public to be heard on these items. We shall deem the public hearing open and closed. Any specials on items 9 through 31?
Item 15, please.
15 called special by Mr. Reyes. Any other specials? Items 9 through 31. Mr. Reyes,
President, we just continue item 15 for a week.
request to continue item number 15 for 1 week. That would be February 20th. Without objection, so ordered. Items 9 through 31, with the exception of item 15. If there are no further specials, Madam Clerk, please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Those are approved. Items 9 through 14 are ordinances, and we do have a unanimous vote with 12 members. Next item, please.
Next items, Mr. President, on the continuation agenda, items 32 and 33 are items for which public hearings have been held.
We do have a card on item 33. Let's call that special. Members wishing to be heard on item 32. Anybody wishing to call that special? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Item 32 is approved. Next item.
Item number 34 is an item for which public hearings have not been held.
Item 34 now before us. Do not have requests from members of the public to be heard on this item. We shall deem the public hearing open and closed. Number 34, Mr. Garcetti, did you wish to speak now or just call it special?
I'll speak.
Item 34 is before us. Okay. Item 34, anybody wishing to call that special? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Going back to the items that are called special, item number 4 was called special by Councilmember Garcetti.
Item number 4 now before us, Mr. Garcetti.
President, colleagues, members of the public, I rise in support of this. We saw this in Budget and Finance Committee, and the reason I called it special, this is to continue to have translation services for the Korean community around Wilshire Boulevard and Wilshire Division. It's critical that we do this sort of language outreach, and this is something that we say time and time again in this committee. I know that Council President put forward a motion to look at language and translation services in the city, and it's something that we really need to do. This we keep cobbling together year to year, and it's important in terms of our Korean community trusting that there's a place they can go and can help us solve crimes, help be part of the solution, and keeping the areas safe around Miracle Mile, around Wilshire Boulevard corridor is critical. We do need to look at regularizing this too, so that we don't have to go through this each year in coming back saying it's been there last year, please do it again. We have to make sure that it is there from the start, and we should make this part of the regular policing budget for the coming year. But for now, this again allows us to move forward doing something with it for this year to make sure that this important translation service that serves the community is there. So I urge your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garcetti. Mr. Labange.
Mr. President, members of council, I just wanted to second some of the words Councilman Garcetti spoke of, but also praise Mr. Holden in this effort here. Years ago, when I was a deputy for then the late great John Ferraro, working with Nate Holden to establish the first substation in Koreatown, right by Normandy and A Street, which is so important. And it's interesting enough that Paul Kim was the police officer who was first assigned from Wilshire at the time. Now he is a commander for West Bureau for the LAPD. This is another continual transition of opportunity to help people communicate and be involved and not be afraid to come to the police department to express their needs, their wishes. But I wanted to thank Mr. Holden for bringing this forward and articulating, because it's real important that we reach out as far as we can and to include people in the process. Thank you very much. As for your support.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. Are the members wishing to be heard on item number 4? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Item 4 is approved. Next item.
siguiente.
forthwith, please, on item 4.
Procedamos.
Next
Señor,
item.
cuestión 4, por favor.
Item number 6, called special by Councilmember Holden.
Especial por el
Mr.
concejal
Holden.
Señor Holden.
Madam President,
Can I ask you to push your button, please?
I'd like to have a member
Oprima su
status
botón.
report, or
Quiero
that's what
dar
this
un
supposed to be,
reporte
someone at the
de
table, or
estatus.
Ms. Koski,
Quiero llamar a la
telling us
señora
about whether or not we're on target as relates to the consent decree. There's been a lot of discussion about that recently in our newspapers and our television, and the public is, want to know even what it is. And so let's explain what it is, number one, and two, and what the court's position was, the independent monitor position in terms of the progress that we're making.
Cuanto al progreso que estamos haciendo.
We have somebody prepared to come and
¿Hay alguien
answer
preparado
questions?
para
Mr. Dean.
contestar preguntas, señor Dean?
The assistant city attorney, I think, is, city attorney is monitoring this as well. They should be here to speak on it.
I think Mr. Bowers is just in the back of the room, and I think he's coming up now.
Sí, creo que
Coming
él
up. He's in
está
the back of the room?
acercándose
All
ahora,
right.
está atrás, bien, se está acercando.
The commander, wonderful.
Comandante, muy
If you
bien.
want to hold this,
I don't see them moving forward here.
No veo a nadie en
Can somebody grab their
Sí,
attention?
You guys should hop too.
ustedes deben de apresurarse, por favor.
You see the commander in the back or in the back room?
Hay un comandante.
You see the city
atrás.
attorney here?
¿Ve usted al fiscal municipal aquí?
All right, Mr. Deaton.
Let's hold this on to this until we can get the appropriate city staff here to respond to
Pendiente
questions.
hasta que el personal
Let's
de
take the
la
next
escuela
item.
esté aquí,
Item number 8 is called special, also by Councilmember Holden.
Por el
Mr. Holden.
concejal Holden. Señor Holden.
Mr. President, members,
Señor presidente, miembros.
on this motion, I'd like to hear an
En esta
explanation
moción
from,
quiero
I mean,
escuchar
Ms.
una
Koski,
explicación de la
regarding
señora
hiring retired police officers.
y de los de señora
What we have found is that there have been inquiries in the police department, particularly with some of the changes, and most specifically with both with the pension matter and the flexible work schedule, that some former LAPD officers who had gone to other jurisdictions in the locale have expressed an interest in coming back to LAPD. And the problem is that the process to come back is complicated. So this motion has asked, and both Public Safety Committee and Budget and Finance Committee have approved in concept these motions, and it asked for a report back, I think in 45 days, as to how we can streamline the process so that officers who want to return are able to return without having, going through a very long, complicated process, but just a short process, because they had been officers, they had gone through a review, so it'd be a very short, just what they've been doing since they've been gone, a check with the police agency that they're at to say that they've been good officers, and also that when they come back, they can move more quickly up instead of going back to just a P2 if they were at a higher rank. So that's what this does.
De esto se trata.
What's the status of
¿Cuál es el estatus?
retired police officers? Can they return to work now, if at all? And if so, why? What do we do differently in order to make that
podemos hacer
possible?
diferente para hacer esto proceso más
If I can
fácil
just
y
clarify,
posible?
Mr. Holden, these weren't retired officers. These were officers who had been active, who left after 2, 3, 5, 6 years and went to another agency and want to come back. So they didn't retire, they just left. So they aren't on pensions or anything like that.
No están recibiendo pensión ni nada por ese estilo.
Okay.
Right now, I think we use retired officers for background checks,
para que hagan los antecedentes
in the
penales,
recruitment process,
en el proceso de
and I think
emplear a
we're
estos
in
agentes.
a
Creo
position to
que
bring them back
estamos
for a
en
limited
posición de
period of
poder
times, but
traerlos de regreso por un
that's all.
breve tiempo, pero es todo.
Mr. President,
But we
members,
use their expertise mainly in background checks.
Los jubilados los
I was
usamos
just
como
somewhat
expertos
confused
para
because in
llevar a cabo los procesos de
1992,
trabajo. Soy un poco confundido porque
Mr.
en
Deaton, if you
1992,
recall,
ahorita si usted puede
there was a hold and Ferrara
recordar,
motion
hubo una demora en la
to change
moción
the
del señor
charter
Ferraro de cambiar el
to permit
mandato
retired police
para
officers to come
permitir
back
agentes
and not have their
jubilados
pension
que regresen
affected.
y que no les
As you know,
afectara su
prior
pensión.
to
Usted
that,
sabe, antes de
police
eso,
officers
agentes de
could not be
policía
rehired
no
once they
podían ser
retired
empleados
from
ya
LAPD for any
que
purpose
se
at all.
jubilaban
And
del
we
departamento de
permitted them to
policía
come back for
ningún
a
propósito, por
year,
lo
up
tanto
to
les
a year,
permitimos que regresaran
to fill
hasta
some of those desk
máximo
positions
un
where
año
we could
para
go back on
que
patrol. You were aware
estuvieran en la
of that.
oficina y
Okay.
no anduvieran
I
en
do recall that.
patrulla.
Look at the
Sí,
ballot
recuerdo
measure
eso.
right here.
Aquí tengo esa
That's
medida.
why I said for a limited period of time,
Yeah,
but
En la
also we
evaluación
hired them back
fue
as
por
civilian. We hired them back as
plazo de tiempo
civilians
limitado, los
for
volvimos
background checks.
a emplear
For these
solamente como
officers who just
civiles
went to other
para que lleven a cabo los
departments,
asuntos penales.
they want to
Esto
come
tiene que
back
ver,
to
ellos
us?
han
Is
ido
she
a otros
saying
departamentos
that
y
we
se
should
han
make it
regresado con
easier?
nosotros. Entonces ella está diciendo que
We're not going to have
vamos a hacer
background
más
checks on
fácil,
them?
no vamos a llevar
Excuse
a
me?
cabo antecedentes penales.
Will we
Disculpa.
still be required to have background checks on
Requeriremos
officers
que se
who
lleven a
left
cabo
and they want to come back?
antecedentes penales
Even with
cuando
the
están libres
motion
para que
that being
regreses,
made by
absolutamente,
Mr.
aunque
Absolutely. We do not let them back.
How are you going to streamline? What's
la-
the definition of streamlining this thing?
¿Qué es lo que usted dice que quiere hacer el proceso más fácil para
Mr. Scott, what do you mean by
Señora,
streamlining the return rights,
¿qué quiere decir
privileges
usted
for
que
officers who've left?
facilitar
Would you hold my time, Mr. President?
el proceso para los agentes que
The
han
motion
ido?
itself talks
La
about
moción
creating
misma
a
habla
pension back buy-in, because when
acerca
people have
de
left,
crear
they may
una
have pulled money out of the
pensión.
pension. These aren't retired
Estos
officers,
no son
these are
personas
officers maybe
jubiladas,
anywhere
estos no
from
son
3 to 12 years.
jubilados.
So they can buy back into the pension,
Estuvieron fuera 3 o
eliminate,
5 o 6 años para que vuelvan
there's a
a
3-year rule now
contribuir
that
a
says
la
that when
pensión.
they
Hay
are
un
gone for that
reglamento
amount, they've got to go
que
through a
dice
whole
cuando
new
ellos pasan por
background check,
este-
full
cuando se
application. We
van,
want to
tienen que
streamline that. We want
pasar por
to
How would you
todos los
streamline the
penales
background
y por
check?
todas las
This guy could be selling dope while he's there.
We would go to the agencies where they have been to really look at what they've done only for the last 3 years, not the entire
What
background.
about a polygraph? Would they take a polygraph?
Yes, the polygraph would
Si se
be
lleva a
required.
cabo la prueba,
See, we had already done a background check. We would just limit the background check to that while they've been gone, from the time they broke service with the city of Los Angeles until the present.
Desde el
And
momento
that
que
would,
dejaron de
currently, that
dar
would not
servicio a la
be
ciudad
the
de
case.
Los
We're just
Ángeles
trying
hasta
to make it
presente.
as simple as we can to bring it back, but still maintain all the standards that we've had in the past.
Mientras tanto,
Mr. President, members, I'm going to vote
todas
against this motion. I'll tell you
las
why.
normas del pasado. Voy a votar
There are a lot of
contra
officers
esta
who
moción. ¿Por qué? Porque hay muchos
talk
agentes
about leaving the
de
department,
policía que
some of
hablan
them
acerca de irse de
and they
departamentos de
complain
policía,
and write,
quejan,
and they
escriben
left.
y se van.
It's the LAPD is the finance department where
LAPD
most
es
officers
el
want to
mejor
work. When
departamento
they go to
donde
these other
muchos agentes
departments, they
desean
can't get
trabajar en otros
promoted. The grass is like greener on the other side of the street. They're out, leave them out.
Están fuera,
I'm
déjenos
not
fuera.
going
Yo
to
no
support
voy
bringing
a
them back. They were
apoyar
disgruntled when they
traerlos
left.
de
They'll be
nuevo.
disgruntled when they come
Estaban
back.
frustrados cuando se fueron, están
All we
frustrados
need
para
today in the
regresar. Lo
police
último que
department is
necesitamos
any
hoy en
more
el departamento de
disgruntled
policía
officers.
es más agentes de
There are
policía
some departments just
disgustados
refuse to hire
y
some.
no
And
contentos.
I just think it was a
Creo
tremendous
yo
mistake
que es un gran error
to open the door of
abrir
opportunity
la
for
puerta
these
de
disgruntled
oportunidad para
officers
estos agentes de
who
policía que
turned
se han
them
ido,
back
que
on the Los
fueron
Angeles Police
descontentos
Department, who
para
trained
volver a
them,
regresar al departamento de policía.
made them
El
qualified
departamento
to
de
be
policía que
accepted
los
for another
entrenó,
agency,
que los
and now they want to
hizo,
come back. Retired
los
officers never
entrenó
different. That's why I
para
put the
trabajar en
motion
otros
in.
lugares. Solo
But I think you're making a big mistake
apoyar esta moción.
if you think there'll be a
Es un
better
gran
police officer
error
today than there were before when they left.
pensar que ellos serán mejor agente policial
Or
hoy
better
que
because they went to
antes de
another department and
irse.
they come back to work for us. Have you heard,
¿Han
Miss?
escuchado?
You said you heard that they want to come
¿Usted
back?
escuchó que ellos desean
Oh, I
regresar?
thought the department was so bad they didn't want to
Yo
come
pensé
back.
que el
I
departamento
thought
estaba
everybody
tan
wanted to
malo
leave.
que no quería regresar. Yo pensé que ellos se querían
You know
ir.
what I mean?
Thank you,
We're
Mr.
getting mixed
Muchas gracias,
signals.
señor Holman.
Thank you, Mr.
Muchas
Holman.
Thank you,
gracias,
Mr.
señor Holman.
President,
Gracias,
and
señor presidente.
I'm going to vote
Voy a
no.
votar
They're out,
no.
stay out.
Están fuera,
Mr.
quédense
Kowski.
fuera.
I think I answered the questions,
Creo que
Mr.
ya
Holden. This
contesté
is an
las preguntas,
opportunity to
señor
get
Holman.
good
Esta es la
officers
oportunidad de
who
volver
want to
a
come back.
contratar
We will
buenos
do
agentes que desean
the
regresar.
background check that
Haremos
would
los
be
estudios
required, just
penales
not as
requeridos, pero no tan
extensive.
extensos.
These are officers
Esos son
who
agentes
qualified
quienes
once to be officers, were trained by us,
fueron entrenados por nosotros,
left for any
se
number of
fueron
reasons, but
por
if they
cualquier
want to come
razón,
back,
pero que
I think
desean
that we should
regresar y
accept
por
them
lo
with
tanto
open
creo
arms
que debemos
and
aceptarlos
increase
con
our
los
numbers
brazos
on
abiertos
the overall
y poder
recruitment.
aumentar los
So I
números
ask for an
en
aye vote.
los empleos. Por lo tanto, yo
Ms.
pido
Hahn.
por votos de sí, señora Han.
Thank you. I had a lot of what I was considering asking already
Ya me
answered.
han contestado mucho las preguntas que yo iba a hacer.
And I too was wondering
Yo
what
también
is,
estaba
I mean,
pensando,
clearly we need to
claramente
get more police
necesitamos
officers
contratar
in the
más agentes de
department.
policía
We
en el
need to
departamento de
retain them so
policía,
they
lo
don't
tenemos que
leave. We need to recruit
mantenerlos
new
para que no se vayan,
ones.
tenemos
But
que
clearly,
emplear
if
nuevos,
this
pero
is a
claramente
pool
si
of
esto
officers that
es
wants to come back,
una cantidad de agentes que
I'm
desean
just wanting to
regresar,
make sure
solamente quiero
that, and I don't
asegurarme
consider
que
them
yo no los
traitors. I
considero
think
que son
that
traidores.
if they've
Pero
gone
yo
to
que
another
sí los han
department
ido
and
a otro
they
departamento
come back with
y
even more
regresan con
experience,
más
I
experiencia,
agree that
yo
I
estoy
think
de
we ought
acuerdo,
to
yo
do
creo
everything
que
we can to
debemos
hire.
hacerlo
I'm concerned
posible
that
para que puedan regresar
we make sure that we have
fácilmente. Lo que
every
es que quiero
every
asegurarme que
incentive. I don't see much in here that's an incentive to bring them back, besides the fact that they just want to come back. For instance, the idea of demoting them.
regresar, además de la
to a
fomentación, que
level
ellos puedan
below where they left. I'm
regresar a un
wondering,
nivel más
maybe you
alto
can
de
respond to
cuando ellos
that.
fueron. Quizás usted puede
If
contestar a esto.
that
¿Hay algún
is there
incentivo?
some code that I'm not
¿Algún
aware of
código
that we're
quizás
not
que
allowed to
yo
bring
no
them back
sepa
at the
que no
same
permite que ellos regresen?
Currently, when they come
Actualmente,
back,
cuando
they return immediately to the P2 status, no matter where they have been. All this is saying is let them come in to just one step below where they've been, as
Is
opposed
it
to all
out
the
of
way back to
question to have them
P2.
come back at the level they
It
left?
might be, just in terms of
Particularly if they've had
others.
experience, what if they've had 3 years experience in another department?
Again, this is just asking that a report come back, so I think we can look at that idea and see whether or not if they have advanced beyond where they were here comparably and with other kinds of accommodations and appropriate steps. We can consider this. This could be a report back to public safety and budget finance.
Okay, that's one thing I would like to see, is if we could look at that.
Mr. Reyes.
Mr. Dean, one of the reports I was, one of the facts I got, one of the reports, talking to the staff from the LAPD is that applicants aren't passing the polygraph test. And now they're coming back, are they going to be also going through the same processes as they first came on board, going through all these exams?
Well, first off, if they didn't, they would be, the polygraph would obviously impact only the things they've done while they were gone. So if they passed it in the first place, they were acceptable up to that point, and we'd have to look back on, we'd only look at the time they were gone. This is, and I think as Councilman Moskowski indicated, this is for us to take a look at all these things in order to attempt to these are areas right now are disincentives for them to come back, and we're attempting to look at these areas and see if we can. But it should not, unless the person while they were working for another city had done something that would adversely affect their polygraph, they should pass since they passed initially.
Mr. Labange.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the council. Mr. Deaton, when someone leaves the Bureau of Engineering and they're an engineer and they go to work privately for 2 or 3 years and find out that they'd rather work in the public sector than the private sector and come back to city service, are they come back at the same level?
It depends, don't, unless they were on a leave of absence, no.
I think there should be some consistency. I just think there should be consistency if someone chooses. Years ago, there was only one place to work, and that was the city of Los Angeles, in all our departments. And opportunities have improved throughout this county and this state and the nation for all classes of work. But the greatest opportunities were in Los Angeles. I hope we could find a way that if someone comes back and wants to serve, because it's a different, people never used to think about leaving. You'd stay in the same neighborhood, you'd go to the same high school, you wouldn't move. Now we move a lot. People move a job. Yeah, stay married to the same person. God, Bridget, I love you. And I wanted to say that it's important to have a same class of being able to walk back in if you come back. I don't think you should be penalized. Because the employment industry as a whole has changed. So my just thoughts here is to ask if you could look to see what it applies to other levels of city government, so we're consistent in how we do things. When someone leaves water and power and comes back, do they come back as a lower grade, or they come back as the same? Does someone leave the airports and the harbor? So if you could do that.
I'll take a look. I think the difference here is that in the case of some classifications, we aren't, and the recruitment issue that we are with police department. I think that what we're trying to do is try to increase the number of people we can get on the force,
But if they have left and gone to Montebello, do they come back at a lower grade?
They come back at a very low grade. What we're suggesting is they come in at just a slightly lower grade, or maybe, and Councilwoman Hahn wanted us to look at, maybe they come back at a lateral. We'll have this go ahead. I will get some information
Look
for
at
you on
that.
the rest of the city.
See what it is.
But I think the recruitment issue is very paramount to our problem in the police department.
Thank you.
Muchas gracias.
Mr. Holden.
Señor Holden.
President, remember, I got a little problem with that
Tengo un
explanation,
problema
Mr.
con
Dean.
su explicación.
If they come back a lateral, say they left here as
a
the
la
buck
misma
sergeant,
posición,
2
y se
stripes, 3
ponen con un
stripes, and they
sargento.
captain where they are today. Some people leave here to become police chiefs.
You're
You're going to bring them back?
No, I meant lateral to when they left.
Well, no, what are you talking about?
What I'm saying now is if they come back now, they come back at a very, very low level. What we're suggesting is that they come back more comparable to where they left, not to where, if they went to, not if they became police chief of East Overshoot, Oklahoma, that they would come back as police chief of the city of Los Angeles. I'm not suggesting.
The fact of the matter is that,
Maybe that was Georgia.
but I was just told that they want to come back because the chief fought for retirement benefits for them. I think the chief was supporting them, right? And they fought for other benefits they now have. And all these officers want to come back. And you don't see that in the headlines of the newspaper. All you see is that the league is saying they all want to leave. Well, let's see what the teachers' position is going to be on that. Fact of the matter is that I'm really surprised, but I'm pleased to hear they want to come back. But since I consider them to be traitors in the first place, and they turn their back on the city of Los Angeles, they're out. You make a big mistake. They should stay out. And for that reason, I'm going to vote against bringing them back.
Thank you.
Ms. Mizikowski.
I think, I was just going to respond to Mr. Labange. I think the other effort to look at other entries back, re-entries back makes sense, but I would like to keep it separate from this one. We really know that police recruitment is a top agenda item. Let's focus on this, get this back, and have the CLA bring back to us if there need to be any adjustments for anyone else who would be a good employee to have back to the city family. But I ask for an aye vote on this matter.
Okay. Seeing no further members wishing to be heard, Madam Clerk, please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes, 1 no.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Next item, Mr. President, item number 6 is still on the desk. I believe the people are here to report on the item.
Have the appropriate city staff to respond to questions on item number 6. Please come forward at this time. Item 6 called special by Mr. Holden.
Making progress, or being criticized by the court, or being criticized by the independent monitor? What progress we making, if any, in the consent decree, and who's responsible for making that progress?
Yes, good morning, everyone. Terry Bowers, Chief Deputy for the City Attorney's Office. Generally, I would describe our effort as extraordinary as far as the initial mobilization. I think the city family has done an outstanding job of bringing all the necessary components together to meet these very complex and difficult demands set out in the consent decree. I think the progress has been favorable. We're moving forward on most items at the required pace. As you might anticipate, there are some specific components of the consent decree that turn out to be more difficult than anticipated. And what we've been doing, well, for example, certain audits and the Teams 2 computer process that we're trying to implement, some of those items have been modified in our approach so that we can move forward in the spirit of reform and really have a workable system in place. I think what we've been trying to do is obviously move forward with the spirit of reform, stay out of federal court so that Judge Fease is not brought into any of the debates or disagreements at this point. And so far, things have worked very well. We've been able to informally negotiate with the independent monitor and with the Department of Justice on various issues of clarification, modification, and that's going extremely well. So I think overall, progress is good, and of course some of the most important work remains ahead, but I'm very optimistic that we can succeed without having any need for court intervention.
You're going to
comment on this also?
¿Desea usted dar comentarios sobre esto?
Barb Garrett with the CLA's office.
Yo estoy
The
con
city
la
submitted a
CLA.
status
La ciudad
report on
presentó
February
un
1st indicating
status
what our
report el 1 de
progress
febrero,
was.
incluyendo
At that
nuestro
time, we
progreso.
identified
Entonces,
9
identificamos
paragraphs
9
that we were having some
párrafos
difficulty
donde
implementing in the consent decree.
estamos teniendo
Who's
problemas
responsible
para
for implementing
implementar.
those more
¿Quién es
difficult
responsable para implementar
requirements
estos requisitos más
in order to be in
difíciles para
compliance with this consent decree?
estar
Well, again, I
en
think this
acuerdo
is
con
a
este
unified
mandato? Creo
family
yo que ese
effort.
es
Of course,
un
the
What do you mean
esfuerzo de un
unified?
grupo
I mean, family
donde
effort.
une
Who's
este
responsible for
¿Quién es
doing that? Is the
responsable
chief
para hacer esto?
responsible? That's what I
El
want
jefe
you to tell
responsable
me.
es lo que
Well,
quiero que
it's a
usted me diga.
combined
Es
effort.
una
The CLA
esfuerza-
office has
es
done
un
an excellent
esfuerzo
job of
combinado. El
coordinating
CLA ha
the
hecho un
status
gran
report
trabajo para
responses
coordinar
and
la
making sure
respuesta
that
del
all the
reporte
various
y el
items are
estatus
moving
y
according to schedule. The various
y
components
procediendo de acuerdo al horario. Hay varios
have to be
componentes
serviced by various
factores que
entities. For
deben ser
example, the RFPs for
investigados por
certain
diferentes
items that have to
organismos.
be
Por
purchased,
ejemplo,
the city
hay
attorney's
ciertos
office is
trabajos que
responsible
deben
for
ser
that. The LAPD is responsible for certain audits and manuals and procedures
que
that
deben de
have
llevarse
to
a
be
cabo
put
por
in
el
place.
Departamento de
The Police
Policía,
Commission has
por la
certain
Comisión
responsibilities.
del
The
Departamento de
Inspector
Policía,
General has certain
el general, el
responsibilities.
inspector
So I think I
general
have to
también tiene
emphasize
unas
this
que
is
tengo
a
que enfatizar que
unified,
este es
comprehensive effort by
un esfuerzo
the city.
organizado
And
por
ultimately, the
varios
city
organismos de la
attorney's
ciudad
office
y, en conclusión,
represents the
el
city on
fiscal
behalf
municipal
of all
representa a la
efforts
ciudad de
with
parte de
regard
todos los
to the federal
organismos
consent
quienes han
decree in
dado
court. And so we
su
actually
asistencia
submit
para los
status
requisitos y
reports.
llevar
President, members,
esto
and Mr.
a cabo.
Sikowski, I think it's
Miembros,
important
colegas, creo yo que
that the
es muy
city attorney
importante que
define
el
for us
fiscal
the
municipal
areas of responsibility for implementing this family commitment to
subraye las áreas de conciliar
number
y
one. And number
quién
two,
está
or just
llevando
give it to me directly. I just want
no,
to get
démelo a mí
counsel. I don't care.
directamente. ¿Quién está
Tell us
encargado
who's
por cada uno de
responsible,
estos puntos?
who's doing their job,
¿Quién está haciendo su trabajo?
who's
¿Quién
on
es
target,
responsable? ¿Quién
so I
está
can gauge as to who's on
enfocado
target,
para
who's not
así
on
poder
target.
ver
Now, I want to
quién
know
está
specifically what the police
en
department,
horario y quién no está?
what the
Específicamente para ver
police
quién está
commission,
haciendo el
what the
departamento de
police chief
policía con el jefe de
is
policía, la
responsible
comisión de
for
policía, qué responsabilidades tienen
in order to
ellos
be in
tocante
compliance. I want to know
este,
specifically. So
asunto.
it's
Quiero
not
saber
vague and,
específicamente para que
no single
hablen en
individual
general,
member of this family is going to be a target
porque
for
no va a
rockets
ser el
and missiles
blanco ningún miembro de esta
and
familia
attacks,
para
verbal and otherwise. Go ahead.
cohetes y para
Councilman, I think the best way to go through that is
la mejor manera de
to go
repasar
through
esto
the
es de
status
repasar
reports
el
because it
reporte
goes through
donde
the
menciona que
consent
status
decree
porque
paragraph by
habla
paragraph
acerca
and
de
sets out the
este
various
mandato
requirements
párrafo
and the
por
entities
párrafo,
responsible
menciona acerca de
for
los
meeting those
requisitos y
particular
las
goals.
entidades
The city
responsables para
submits a
lograr
status
esos
report
logros. La
and
ciudad
it's very
presentó este
detailed
reporte, el
and
estatus
Barb
de
Garrett should be
lo que llaman el
congratulated for
reporte de
coordinating
estatus,
that effort.
donde estamos
Also,
ellos han
the
sido
independent
muy
monitor put out
y
an
cooperativos para llevar a
independent
cabo este
status
esfuerzo.
report, and you can go through that as
Usted puede
well
repasar eso
to see the
también
various components
para
of
ver los
complying with
diferentes
the consent
factores
decree,
en cuanto
who's responsible and
quién es
how they're
responsable
doing
por
I see the mayor's
Yo
office,
veo que la
public
oficina
safety
del
deputy is here. Will
alcalde,
you come to
los
the table, please?
deputies del el asistente de la oficina
State
del
your name.
alcalde, diga su nombre.
Good morning, Roberta
Buenos
Yang
días,
from the
Roberta
mayor's
Yang,
office.
de la
And
oficina
you
del
heard these
alcalde.
reports.
¿Usted ha escuchado
Yes, sir. I
esta
And you
leído
have an
reportes?
opinion
Sí.
about what they're
¿Tienes
saying
una
about
opinión acerca de lo que se incluye
responsibility,
ahí, de la
responsibility
responsabilidad que se le ha
compliance?
otorgado a todas las personas?
I echo the comments of Mr. Bowers.
Reitero
The
los
CLA's office has done a really
comentarios del Bowers,
terrific
el
job
CLA ha
in really
hecho un gran
driving
trabajo
the
llevando
implementation
a cabo la
process.
implementación
There
de este
were a
proceso.
few areas that
Hubo
were
varias
described in the city
áreas
status
que
report
se
as being
describen
in
en
partial
el
compliance.
reporte
It
de
was
estatus que
accurate.
están en
And I think the city
bajo
family
reglamento.
works
Creo
very
que
hard
la
in a
familia de la ciudad
collaborative and
trabaja
cooperative way
muy duramente
to meet
con su
all of the very
cooperación
stringent
para
deadlines in that consent decree.
llevar a cabo con
But the
todas
reporting
las
is
fechas
accurate.
límites incluidas en ese mandato, pero ese
Right, you don't
reporte de estatus, lo que llaman
No,
status
any member of
report,
this
está
family
exacto.
who's not doing their best to
No hay
complete,
ningún miembro de esta
to be,
familia que no
to
está
be in compliance
llevando a
with
cabo
consent
su mejor trabajo, que no está reuniendo los reglamentos.
I think that it's a learning process,
Es un
and I
proceso
think
de
that the city
aprendizaje.
family
Creo yo que
is
la
pulling
familia de la
together as
ciudad
best it can.
se está
And
organizando de la
there
mejor
were
manera que
of all the
puede.
many
Let me ask the
things.
city attorney a question. If
Esa es
this
una pregunta para el
consent
fiscal
decree, if we
we meet all the requirements
si reunimos
for
todos
the
los
Justice Department,
requisitos
we met it for a period of
y la
time,
Departamento de
5 years
Justicia
or
está de acuerdo con
whatever,
esto, lo
then we're
reunimos
in
por 5
compliance,
años,
right?
entonces estamos en
Is this
acuerdo
perceived to
dentro
be
del
a
reglamento
flaw,
legal. ¿Es así
just the
que
minimum that we should do,
esto
or are
es
you
lo
striving
mínimo
to do something
o
even better
estás
than this?
tratando de
Well,
mejorar
I
los
think
reglamentos?
everyone
Creo yo
views
que
the consent
todos
decree as one mechanism towards
están
police
utilizando este
reform.
mandato un
It's not a
mecanismo para
panacea,
reforma
it's
de
a
la
good
policía.
start.
Es un
And
buen
obviously, we want to
principio y
comply
obviamente
with all
queremos
the
estar en
mandates
reglamento
in
con
that
todos los
consent
mandatos
decree
dentro de
so
esta
that we can return
ordenanza
the
para
governance
así
of our
Ms. Yang,
police force
is
to
there
the
anything
city
else
and
that that you think that we might do
gobernar de regreso al
in order
departamento
to
de
make it
policía.
even better? You have any
¿Cómo están tratando de
ideas?
hacer, tener esfuerzos para hacerlo mejor? ¿Tiene usted alguna idea?
I think it's really important for the sake of the litigation that the city
Por el
meet
hecho del litigio
the
que la ciudad
requirements in the four
reúna
corners
los
of the document, but the issue of
pero la
police
cuestión
reform
de
and the
reforma
spirit by
de la
which it
policía
must
y
be
el espíritu por
undertaken
el cual
is also very,
tiene
very
que tener
important.
llevado a
In
cabo.
terms of the
También muy
consent decree
importante, pero en
itself,
cuanto al
we intend to meet what's required in the four corners of the
debemos,
document.
lo que estamos
I mean,
tratando
but
en
we're not talking about the
es de
spirit of it,
reunir
we're
los
talking about the
requisitos
actual
que se
facts.
requieren.
What do
No estoy
you,
hablando
what
sobre el
else do you think
espíritu,
ought to
¿qué
be
más
done
piensa usted
over and
que debe de
above
hacerse más
what's
allá
documented in the consent
de
decree,
lo
if
que
anything?
se indica
I think we as the city
en
family must
ese
continue to
orden
strive to
jurídico
meet
como
every
si
possible
miembros de la ciudad de la familia debemos
deadline.
de
It's a very
tratar
critical.
de llegar a
Those
todos
goals
los
are
fechas
not
límites.
specific
Esas
and undefined
metas no
and
son
should not be put
específicos,
upon
no son
anybody.
definidos y no deben de
Does the city attorney have anything
ponerse
else to
sobre
say?
nadie más. ¿Tiene algo más el fiscal que decir de la
for the
ciudad?
report,
No,
Mr.
gracias.
Ms. Miskowski.
Señora Kowski.
Thank you, Mr. President.
señor presidente.
Mr. Holden,
Señor
on
Holden,
these reports, and you now
sobre estos
see that they
reportes
come to
usted
the
los
council
ve
with
que
frequency. Every 2
vienen a
weeks, the
este
Public Safety Committee
concilio
meets, and then there's a
cada
follow-up of a
2
consent
semanas,
decree
cada 2
report.
semanas se
You
reúnen
asked
y hay
who's
un
responsible,
reporte
what's
que
going
pregunta.
on. On the back of that
¿Quién es responsable?
report,
¿Qué está
there's a
ocurriendo?
chart.
Tras el reporte
It tells
hay
us what the
un
deadline is,
diagrama,
what the
dice la
paragraph
fecha
is, and
límite,
how
el
it's going
párrafo
forward.
y cómo
And
está
I will say,
procediendo el
because I don't think anyone at the table did
Quiero
say
decirle que
it,
nadie
that
lo dijo,
by
pero
and
yo voy a
large,
decirle
the
que,
bulk of the
en
implementation of the
general,
consent decree falls on and is the responsibility of the police department.
la
That's the chief of
responsabilidad
police
cae
on
en el
down.
jefe
The chief of
de
police has established a
policía. Él ha
consent decree
establecido un
group
consent decree
that has been
grupo
working
que ha estado
incredibly hard.
trabajando
I absolutely agree
increíblemente
that Barb Garrett
duro.
should be commended for
Debemos
pulling it
felicitar a
together,
señora
coordinating,
Garrett
creating these lists, and
por
keeping
coordinar y
everybody
crear
on
esta
track.
lista y mantener a todo el
But
mundo,
the everybody, by and large, in large measure, is the police
enfocado, pero en
department,
general,
and they
la responsabilidad
have
cae sobre
met
los
the
hombros
mark.
del departamento de policía y
They
han
have more
llegado
than
a
met the
esa
mark in
marca,
most instances,
han
and the
llegado-
other
han
area, one
llegado a esa
area
marca
that we
más-
didn't, the only area that was specifically said that we
más allá de
met, did not
lo
meet a date
esperado.
on December 15th was on
La
the
única fecha
confidential
que
informant
no-
manual, and the reason it was not
La fecha
completed
que
and was
no
not submitted is
completaron
because the
fue el
district
libre
attorney
15 y la ausencia
asked that we
de la
hold it, the
votamos
district
es porque
attorney
el
asked that he
fiscal
review it, the
pidió
district attorney asked that
que
he
esta
meet,
fuera-
and so we didn't meet that
estuviera
deadline.
pendiente, por lo
But
tanto,
by and large, I
esa
want to
fecha
commend
límite,
the
pero
police
más
department
allá que
and
de
everyone in the
darle
city, but specifically the
explicaciones
police
al
department for their
departamento
consent
policial
decree work. I
por
think
su
they've done
trabajo. Creo
an
que ellos han
incredible
hecho un
job
gran trabajo,
assimilating a lot of
llevando a
changes
cabo
in this
muchos
department all at
cambios en
once
ese departamento al
and
mismo
putting out what they
tiempo
need to
y
put out to meet the
presentar
test.
lo que deben
I agree, it's a
presentar para
four-corner
reunir los
document, and we ought to look beyond that
Debemos
to
de
just
ver más allá de
totally
este
embrace
documento
reform.
y
But in
debemos
terms
de
of meeting this mark
dar
today, in
una
fact,
reforma,
I
pero
just
en
read a
cuanto
report
reunir los
within the
requisitos para
last
esta
couple of
fecha límite,
days
recibí un
that
reporte
the
hace
independent
unos
monitor has
cuantos días
actually suggested that we
un
slow
investigador
down on the
independent
issue
nos dijo
regarding
que
teams
fueron
two,
más
that we are moving
despacio
too
en
quickly,
cuanto
and that perhaps we ought to take
estamos
a step
procediendo
back
muy
and
rápido
listen to
y debemos de parar un
alternative
minuto,
suggestions,
escuchar
how we can embrace it more
sugerencias
thoroughly
alternativas
and not just
y
move
no
forward so quickly.
solamente
Again,
movernos
we are
adelante
getting this
tan
report,
rápidamente de nuevo.
Ms.
Estamos
Garrett
viendo
and the
este
working
reporte,
group
señor Garrett, y el
of
trabajo-
everybody,
el
including the
grupo
city
de
attorney,
trabajo
including the
que
CLA,
el
including the
CLA,
CAO,
la
meet to
Fiscalía,
say
el
who
CLO,
needs to do what
deben
this
de-
week,
se reúnen-
and gee, maybe
deben de
we're falling
reunirse
behind, or
para
if you
decir
don't get
que
up to
tenemos
speed,
que
we're not going to
lograr
meet
esta
that
semana,
deadline, so
estamos
that she
demorándonos,
really
no vamos a llegar a
drives
esa fecha
that,
límite, por lo tanto,
that group forward, knowing what's coming down the pike, knowing what
así
deadlines are there,
mover a este
and making
grupo
sure
hacia adelante,
everybody is there to
sabiendo qué es
perform.
lo que
So I
debemos
think
esperar
that
y esfuerzo y
it
todas las
really
personas
is
ahí llevan a cabo
a
el trabajo
tremendous
que
job
deben
that has
hacer.
been
Por
done
tanto,
in a
es un
very,
gran
very
trabajo que
short
llevan a
period of
cabo en muy
time,
poco
and
tiempo
we will continue to
y
give every 2-week
continuaremos
reports, but they're not lengthy reports. I suggest that people take a look and read them because you start to see a pattern on where we are on teams two, where we are on the handheld devices for the racial profiling data, and we can all be looking back. This is our record that goes to the court, that keeps ourselves honest and on track, and we should be paying more attention to it.
Thank you. Mr. Weiss.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to echo what my colleague, Ms. Mizikowski, said about Ms. Garrett's efforts.
esfuerzos de la señora
She
Garrett.
has done an
Ella
extraordinary
ha hecho
job.
un gran
And
trabajo.
most people in this city, unfortunately, just don't get the chance to know how hard you work and how much you do to make sure that we stay on track and make sure that all the parties are complying with their obligations and understand what all the other parties are doing and have that coordination and communication. I do think it's important to add also that with the addition of Mr. Bowers at the city attorney's office, the city attorney's office is now in a unique position to play an extraordinarily constructive role in making sure that all parties are complying and that all parties understand the legal implications of what we're doing. Mr. Bowers is in a unique position to let people in the city know about what it's like to litigate in federal court, and perhaps more importantly, what it's like to litigate a couple miles up the road in Pasadena, and why the city doesn't want to end up in the Ninth Circuit in Pasadena, why the city wants to make sure that we do everything constructive here and come out from that building across the street with a clean slate. So Mr. Bowers deserves praise as well. In a very short period of time, he's done so much to make sure that we are on the right track.
Ms. Hahn?
Thank you. I mean, I appreciate this, and you're right. I mean, these are our regular reports on how we're doing, and ultimately, we're the body that must make sure that we're on top of this and we're complying with it. I just feel like up until this point, there have been a few mixed messages, whether or not we are in compliance, or whether or not, as this report says, the independent monitor expresses some concerns about the timeliness of some things. So, I mean, I'm happy to say everybody's doing a great job, and the city family is working in the spirit of the consent decree, but I'm concerned because I feel like some of these reports are a little bit both sides. I would like to see next time having the independent monitor come here and report to the city council, because why are you raising your, I mean, is that legal, or can we have the independent monitor? I just think the independent monitor, in my opinion, I would like to hear from him on specifically some of these issues, because what's written in the report seems to be different from some of the explanation we get here at the table from the city attorney's office. So I would like to request the independent monitor come next time, and let's have every member of the city family sitting at the table together, answering whether or not we are in compliance, whether or not we are up to date, whether or not our reports are timely, whether or not the information is coming in a cooperative fashion or a forced fashion. I'm still uncomfortable with this.
I just might point out that the issue that we talked about on the independent monitor was relative to access and meetings, et cetera, not on compliance. The independent monitor, I think, has, in fact, their report will be out for this next quarter, the end of this week. But for the most part, at this stage, anyway, I don't think it's substantively different than ours, at least in the drafts that we've seen up to this point. We'll have to see what they actually report on Friday. The confusion in that particular report, or the concern, was, and it was one that was discussed by in public safety relative to access to meetings, et cetera, and we're working through that with them. I think we've worked our problems out in that area.
I think it's important to understand the process in some of the areas where the independent monitor might indicate some concern with the progress. We take that back informally and work out solutions. There's not an area involved where there has been some concern that we haven't moved forward with new procedures, modifications, or whatever, including some modifications on our approach with the LAPD to rectify those problems and get on track. The whole objective here is to keep from going to Judge Feast and making it into an issue of litigation. And I think we have an excellent relationship with the independent monitor and with the Department of Justice right now. That's not to say we don't have disagreements, but we work through those in working groups, and we have various processes in place now where we can resolve those and continue to move forward. As to the independent monitor, I'm not sure he would want to appear here. His responsibility is to the federal court judge, Judge Feast. And so he collects information, and ultimately that report is to the judge. So he has his mechanism set up for monitoring what we do, and it doesn't really include
Well, I just want to make sure that the independent monitor is not, there's not a pattern here where the independent monitor is continually saying, I'm concerned about timeliness or the forthwithness of reports, and then you go back and are you always going back and forcing the department to be more cooperative, to be be
cabo los
more,
departamentos
and
para que sean
then
más
next month it's the same
cooperativos,
thing, but
el
we're still
mes siguiente es
concerned.
lo
I
mismo.
mean,
Y
I think,
creo yo
if
que
there's a pattern
si hay
showing
un,
here, then I mean,
hay un
that's something I'd
patrón
like
aquí que se ha
to
establecido,
be
entonces
made
me
aware of.
gustaría
Certainly, and we see
saberlo.
no pattern at this
Claro,
point. I mean,
no
this
hay
is
un
a very
patrón
dynamic and
ahora que se
fluid
lleva a
and
cabo.
very
Esto es muy
complex
dinámico,
process.
muy
And so
fluido
at any given
y es
time,
un proceso
one item
bastante
might really
dinámico.
be
Si en
going
algún
too
momento
fast.
hay un
For like,
punto que nos
for
indica que
example, the
estamos
Teams 2
yendo muy
process, where the
rápido,
monitor suggests we
donde el
bring it
investigador
back a
sugiere
little bit to make
que
sure
lo
we're
hagamos más despacio
considering
para
all
asegurarnos que estamos
options.
considerando todas
And
las
other
opciones.
items might be
Y otros
lagging a little
apuntos
bit
quizás
according to
están
the independent
retrasados un poco de
monitor.
acuerdo al
It's a
investigador
process
independiente.
where
Es
we
un
evaluate
proceso
that
donde
continually
evaluamos
and
eso
make the
continuamente y
adjustments.
hacemos los
And
ajustes
at least from our
adecuados.
viewpoint
A
at
menos
this
de parte
point,
de
we
nuestro
have
punto de vista,
very
¿verdad?
good working
Vemos muy
relationships,
buena
and that's what we have to
relación
continue to
con
foster
todas
so
las
that
personas
we
que
make
están trabajando y
continued progress.
queremos proceder con eso para poder continuar con el proceso.
Pacheco.
Señor Pacheco.
I just wanted to, Mr. President and colleagues, highlight the fact that as we discuss the consent decree, that we not lose sight of the fact that police reform goes beyond the consent decree, and there's a number of us who are very concerned about Special Order 40 and how the police department is handling our immigrant population. So I just want to make sure that we all understand that even though things may be progressing with the consent decree, and we may actually have a good, healthy difference of opinion and debate on where we're at with the consent decree, that we still have a responsibility to all of our citizens to provide quality service and make sure that they're being respected and treated fairly by our officers. So right now, the Police Commission is looking at Special Order 40 very closely, and we will be coming to council later on with some recommendations on that issue. So I just want to use this opportunity to highlight that we're still dealing with the immigrant community issue.
Él solamente quería tomar este momento para decir
Mr.
que
Weiss.
tenemos una recomendación en el futuro sobre esto, señor Weiss.
Thank you, Mr. President. I hadn't planned on commenting further until I saw we had a quorum here at the table, and I just wanted to take this opportunity, since the two of you were sitting there together, to emphasize here in open session that it is my view that in the past, as we have started the process of compliance with the consent decree, that at times the city has taken an adversarial position with respect to the monitor, with respect to the Department of Justice. I think that's a mistake. I think we need to view those entities as partners in this process. I think that the City Attorney's Office in particular has been playing a constructive role in this regard in making sure that we all understand that the monitor and DOJ are not adversaries, and that even though they sit across the courtroom from us, they need to sit at the same table with us in making sure that we comply with the consent decree. I've been pleased at what I have heard about the progress that has been made with respect to the access issue. And I think that is the proper way to approach an issue like that, not adversarially. And I just wanted to emphasize, since we're here, since you folks are here at the table, that I think that's very important, that if we lose that thread again, if that happens again, I think we are going to put our city's credibility in peril with respect to the monitor, with respect to DOJ, and with respect to the Article 3 judge across the street.
Just a comment, whether the Department of Justice or the independent monitor considers me or my office adversarial. I just want the council to know that having been a part of negotiating the consent decree, there are four corners to that consent decree. There is going to be a federal judge that will, in fact, monitor and make sure that we live up to that consent decree. It will be difficult enough to accomplish those, and I don't think anybody in the independent monitor, and I know in the Department of Justice, does not believe my office has done everything possible in order to get that accomplished. It is when for whatever reason, good or bad, that we get that either the measurement or the ability to be successful is, in my view, potentially compromised because they want to go beyond that and do something else. I think this city committed to do those things, and my office
mi oficina
has been and will be
ha
committed to
estado
getting
y
those things
estará
accomplished.
comprometido
And
para
that's
lograr
where
esto y esto es donde
perhaps we have a philosophical
tenemos
disagreement
un
here.
desacuerdo
Because in
filosófico,
my
porque
view,
en mi punto de
when
vista,
those
cuando
moments
esos
arise,
momentos se
when
acercan, cuando
someone,
están
whether it's the
en la
monitor,
mesa junto a
DOJ,
alguien,
where
que está
someone
de
says,
justicia o alguien
I want you to do
dice,
something
"Quiero que
which
hagas
an
algo",
argument can be
y
made
un argumento
is
se
not
puede
within the four
presentar y no
corners of
está
the
dentro de
consent
los
decree.
cuatro
In my
conceptos
view,
del
the
consent decree.
analysis
El
at
punto de
that
vista
point
del
should
análisis en
be,
ese momento debe
is
ser,
this the right thing to
¿es esta la
do?
manera, la
Not
cosa correcta que
merely,
de hacer?
is
No
this called out
simplemente,
for in the consent decree?
esto
That's
es lo que
my
debe ser
concern,
incluido en el consent decree.
and we'll just have to see how
Ese es mi
things go,
punto de
but
vista
that's
y
how I
queremos
view it.
ver cómo
There
ocurre
may
todo, pero ese
be,
es mi punto de
There's
vista.
another criteria,
Es otra
and that is,
criteria, es una
if we do
criteria,
that,
y esto es, si hacemos
are we
esto,
going to continue
vamos
to be
a
successful in the
continuar
consent
teniendo
decree,
éxito
or are
en
we
el
going to
consent decree o
fail?
vamos a
In other words, the issue is not necessarily alone, is it right or wrong?
fallar.
The issue is that if we
Bien
do
o
it,
mal, la
do
cuestión es
we
si lo
preclude our
hacemos,
ability to,
excluimos la
to
habilidad
in fact,
de, por hecho,
accomplish what we said we would
lograr lo que
accomplish in the
dijimos que íbamos
consent
a
decree?
lograr en el
Teams
consent
2,
decree.
if you read the
Si
material
usted
in
lee
the
el
independent
material,
monitor, etc.,
información
there is
del
reason for us to be
reporte
concerned that what
independiente,
they want to do is expand the scope of the project
estemos alertas
beyond what
porque
is in the
quieren
consent
extender
decree,
lo
that
que
not
está
only will
dentro del
cost money,
consent
but it
decree,
will
que no
cost
solamente
time,
costará
and we
dinero,
will
pero
be in
también
violation
tiempo
of the
y
consent
estaremos en
decree.
quebrantamiento del consent decree.
That may be a good thing to do,
Es algo bueno que
but
podemos hacer.
it will preclude us from
excluirá
meeting the responsibilities that we do have under the consent decree. And that's more my concern than it will make sure, it ensures failure.
Asegurará
Ms. Sikowski.
falla, señor Sikowski.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was just going to give some examples of what might seem adversarial. As Mr. Weiss has pointed out, we heard about the Independent Monitor wanting access to every meeting that the city has, and there were some concerns. It's sometimes Ms. Garrett is there, sort of with a big stick, beating on folks, saying, you better do this or else. And I don't know that we want the Independent Monitor to be that. It's like our own in-house meeting to really make sure that we're going to meet the mark that the Independent Monitor is setting. Let me give you another example. The Independent Monitor said, gee, he thought there was some delay in responding to requests, and we would pull a file and find that there were 10 things in one letter that were requested. We had 9 of the things ready to go immediately, but held back because the 10th wasn't quite ready. We've now worked out, again, with the Monitor, they send us a letter with 10 items, and we've got 9 right away. We're going to send those 9. That will help smooth it out. It's literally that. It's process, it's communication, it's learning each other. I don't think it's necessarily adversarial, but we all, when they say that there's a problem, we sort of react and jump, as we should, to try to figure out what it is and hope that it's not really a problem. So it's, a lot of it is language, semantics, how we are approaching each other, and there will be some effort, and there is some effort in terms of contacting right away, not letting things grow. That's why we have a 2-week report. That's why we have a 2-week meeting internally with everybody at the table to make sure we're hitting that mark. And I think it's working. Clearly, it's just in the early stages still of working, but even so, we've had some important deadlines come up already that we have met, and the only one officially that we haven't met is this confidential informant manual, and that was in front of the planning committee, the police commission yesterday, and they continued it. So again, sometimes in other jurisdictional bodies, and they continued it for a reason I think we have to talk to the city attorney about, but we need to get that report out. It's ready and final as far as the police department having done their work, listening to the DA, including everything that should be there. The report is ready, but the police commission didn't want to send it out.
Mr. Weiss, do you know of any impasse between the independent monitor and the city of Los Angeles where they had to go to court to get it resolved? Yes or no? No, I want you to go back to your position. You know of none. Well, then I think you speak into the mic and have that be the case, because it really misrepresents the facts.
No.
If you stand up and say
He's
that...
not calling you on the table, he's calling you on the carpet. That's a difference.
You misrepresent the facts if you stand up and say that the city is adversarial as relates to the implementing the consent decree. That doesn't sound good. And so I need to know whether or not, if somebody listening over there, I need to know whether or not there's been an impasse to the extent, adversarial position taken by the city, where it becomes an impasse, and you have to go to court and have the court decide. Has there been any such case?
No, there has not been.
Right, that means that you're working out the details, so the spirit to implement the consent decree is a good one on the part of the city. Would you say that?
I would say it's a good one.
All right, fine. So I think that it's good for Mr. Weiss to know that. It's good for the public to know it because it was on Channel 35. And I want to ask Ms. Yang a question if she come back to the table. I think Ms. Hahn made a good point, that you want everyone at the table next time, and that's important. We want to make everything that we're talking about is known to the public. Do you know of any action or lack of action on the part of the city at this point, where they're not in compliance and not attempting to be in compliance with the consent decree? Are you satisfied that everything is being done as best it can be done?
I think the city is making good progress. The city status report that was filed, I think now a couple of weeks ago, contains the current state of affairs. So that
Current state
report,
of affairs, all right.
that report indicates partial compliance on several categories. That means progress is being made on those issues, but there still remains work to be done.
Well, it's not complete yet. You got 5 years to do it. Get it in place. I mean, you're not, I don't think we're talking riddles around here. And that's what we're hearing. You're on target or you're not on target. I want you to tell me right now, are we on target? Ms. Visacossi said, they even told us to slow down, we're going too fast. Now, who's right? She hears it every day. Now, you tell me what you think.
No, I'm not saying anything differently. The city status report speaks, accurately reflects where the city is at on the different categories of compliance. The council member spoke with reference to a few. There are others.
You know, I'm going to close out, Mr. President, but I just want, I'm sick and tired of reading in the newspapers about what we're doing, what we're not doing, and then I come here and I hear everything that we're doing correctly, on target, ahead of schedule. There's two signals going out of here, and somebody's going to have to really be briefed, so we'll know exactly whether or not we're doing what's right on time. And if they're not, then the court should take a position, Mr. Weiss. If we're adversarial, I am concerned about that. Now, Mr. Deaton, you have drafted this consent decree. You're going to be adversarial. You still work for the council, and you got my vote. I'll always be with you because I think you're all right.
Ms. Galanter. Previous question has been called. There are no other speakers waiting. At this time, Madam Clerk, let's open the roll on the report. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
That is approved. Mr. Ridley Thomas.
Mr. President, forthwith on 12, please.
Forthwith on 12.
We thank you.
Next item.
Item number 33, call special, inasmuch as there are cards from the public on the matter.
Item 33 now before us. The council calls forward Nalini Lazowitz. Please help me out there.
Lazowitz.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I'm speaking on item 33, and I wanted to thank the Chief Legislative Analyst's Office and John Wickham for his recommendations. I'm specifically asking to support the commissions to complete their public outreach mission. Let me say that since mid-January, I've been trying to promote the public hearings for the redistricting, and our biggest obstacle was that there wasn't a proper notification of the public hearings. I attended the first hearing at Occidental College, and I was one of only 2 speakers representing CD4. Is that because CD4 has no one else is interested in our council boundaries for the next 10 years? No, I believe it was because we didn't have enough notification of these hearings. And I urge you to correct that mistake today by accepting this extension. I would also like to recommend that we heed the words of Mr. Labange, who had given us some information last year during his campaign about, and I quote, "I cannot tell you how many times city council people have planned things without talking to anybody first. You have to talk to the people first, and you've got to say, this is what our objective is, this is what we want, this is why we want to do this, and we need your support." So today I ask you to support our request for additional time
para que nos den
and
más
also to
tiempo,
urge
y también
additional public hearings, especially in CD4,
que se lleven a cabo
CD13.
más
Thank you very
audiencias,
much.
especialmente en el Distrito 4 y el Distrito 3.
Thank you. This concludes public
Gracias.
comment for
Termina el
item
comentario
33.
público para la cuestión número
Members
33.
wishing to be heard.
Miembros que
Ms.
desean
Hahn.
hablar adicional, señora Han.
Thank you. I support
Gracias.
this
Yo apoyo
extension
esta
for,
extensión que se ha hecho
is this
formalmente
just the LA
para
Unified or is
aplazar
this
el
the, it's both. I support the
para el
extension.
LAUSD o
I think it's the
para
right thing
ambos, para
to do right now, particularly
redistribución de
because
distritos. Para los
of
dos creo que es lo
the
correcto,
upcoming
porque
March 5th election.
la elección que se llevará a cabo el
I
5
would,
de
however,
marzo, sin embargo,
ask that we
también
might
quiero
change
pedir
the
que
date
quizás
of
cambiemos
the
la
deadline
fecha
for the map. We've got it as
límite
March
del mapa, que es
31st,
el
which is Easter
31 de
Sunday.
marzo. Este es
So I'm not
el
sure
día
that's the right date to have the final map
de
due
Gloria.
by.
No creo que
So
esa
it
es
would
la
either
fecha
be
correcta de la fecha
before,
para
but
este
the
mapa.
29th
Puede
would be
ser
Good
antes del
Friday.
29, va a
So
ser
I
el
think it would be
Viernes Santo,
appropriate
pero
to
no
have
creo
it
que
on
será adecuado
April
llevarlo a cabo el
1st.
1 de abril.
Okay. Any other members wishing to be heard?
¿Algún otro miembro que desea
If not, we have the motion. We have a
escuchado?
CLA
Tenemos
report.
una moción. Entonces,
Mr. Labange.
señor Labange.
I want to rise to
Quiero
ask the question of Mr.
hacer
Deaton,
la pregunta al señor Deaton.
the question of Ms.
La
Hahn
pregunta de la
concerning
señora
the date.
Han
Do we
tocante
move
a
it
la
up to
fecha.
the 28th
Lo
of March?
aplazamos al
It's the
28,
31st if it is
pero
Easter
aplazamos
Sunday, and I don't know
el
when
28 de marzo porque
other
el
holidays
30
may
es
be that
el
time of
día
year.
de Pascua.
Okay. What do you suggest?
¿Qué sugiere?
We can either make it,
Podemos hacerlo,
I would suggest March
sugiero
28th
el 28 de marzo
as opposed to
en vez de
April 1st.
el 1 de abril.
Right.
But it's not,
Pero
it's not
no es
a date
no es una fecha
that the
que
council will in fact
el
consider it. It is a
concilio
date that they will
considerará,
submit
es la
it.
fecha que ellos
And so
presentarán el
the
mapa. Por lo
31st is a
tanto,
weekend, so the
31
28th would be
es
fine.
semana,
So a
el 28
motion
va a
to
estar
change it to the
Esta
28th, I
moción
don't
para
think would
cambiar al
be
28
What day of the week is
está bien.
I think that's right. 28th
El
is,
28.
make it the 29th. It
El
doesn't, they
29,
just
el
file it.
29 está
Yeah,
bien.
file it. Make it the 29th of
El
March.
29 de marzo es cuando se debe presentar
I
el...
might point out that the ordinance also returns it to March 1st thereafter. And because the likelihood of this happening again,
2010.
I would assume that it won't happen again. But I won't be here if it does, so.
Do I move to amend the date from the
Quiero
31st to
cambiar la
the...
fecha del
I think the
31
appropriate motion would be to adopt the CLA report as amended by Mr. Labange.
la
And then
moción
change the
será
ordinance
este
that's
reporte
before you.
como
Is there a
enmendado.
second? Seconded by Ms. Hahn. Ms.
We'll bring
Galandri.
an amended ordinance in, and the council can vote on what's in front of it now.
Yeah, you just take and put
Tenemos que
29
abrir
there,
voto para que
cross it
el
out and do
concilio
that.
vote
So it's
sobre
before them.
Ms. Galandri passes. Mr.
Señor
Reyes.
Galanti y señor Reyes.
Mr. Dean, how much time typically has the council needed to come to a decision on this kind of a complicated issue with redistricting?
Well,
¿Cuánto tiempo
the,
necesita este concilio para llegar a una
one thing
resolución sobre
that
esta cuestión
the
tan
council
complicada?
has, in the at least in the last one, I was more heavily involved than I had been in before. The council did a lot
El
of public hearings
concilio llevó a
and
cabo
went
muchas
around,
de las audiencias
not that
públicas
the
a
council will do
través de
that
la
as
ciudad,
well, or
no
a
que la
committee,
ciudad no
but
hará esto ahora,
some of
el
that
comité, pero
public awareness
ciertos de
and
esos
involvement,
involucramiento de la comunidad,
clearly, if I read the
claramente
newspapers
si
correct, is
leo los
already
periódicos
transparent.
correctamente ya
And so a
está
lot of that work is
clara,
already done.
mucho de ese trabajo ya
And
se ha
the
hecho
awareness of the
y
issues are out there.
el conocimiento
That
de
part of
todos
it, I
esos
don't think
asuntos
has to
está
be
ya.
done.
No tenemos que hacer este punto, esa
least the
parte
awareness
ahora,
part, I think
menos
that
la
there
parte
will be
del conocimiento
a
que
need
la
for
comunidad tiene,
some
pero sí
public
habrá una
hearings of the
cierta
council.
necesidad
So I think the
sobre
commission
audiencias
process,
públicas de parte
short
del
order, what
concilio,
I'm
así
trying to say
es
is the
que
commission
en
process
breve
should
el proceso de
diminish
la
the amount of
comisión
time the
debe
council
disminuir la cantidad de tiempo que el concilio
needs for this.
necesita para esto.
And I think the only
Creo yo que el
difficult problem will
único
be
problema
the
difícil
fact
será
that we'll be
el
starting the
hecho
budget
que
pretty quick,
empezaremos
too,
el
so there's
presupuesto
gonna be some
rápidamente, por lo
need to move
tanto
quickly, I think.
tendremos que
So we'll be
mover
squeezing
rápidamente para
in
esto.
the budget process as well as
Vamos
this
a
within
vamos
about a
sobre
2-month
el
period?
propuesto el proyecto de la
Thank you, Mr. Reyes.
de presupuesto para el
Any other
entrante
members
y
wishing to be heard?
en 2 meses tienen que llegar a una
If
resolución.
not,
Sí.
we have a motion by
Tenemos
Mr.
una moción por el
Labange.
señor
Before us,
Labange
Madam Clerk.
de nosotros, actuario.
Before
This is
taking a
change the
vote
date.
Cambie la fecha, para cambiar la
on
fecha.
Mr. Labange's motion.
No, change the date.
Just change the date and approve the ordinance.
And approve the ordinance.
Yes. Okay. Mr. Weiss withholds. Carries over for a second reading. On the ordinance.
Well, why don't we change the date first?
Okay.
So we make sure that.
Let's say two separate votes. One to change the date on the motion, and then a separate vote on the ordinance.
As amended.
Okay. On the motion, Madam Clerk, please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is approved unanimously. Now on the ordinance as amended, Mr. Weiss withholds. That carries over for a second reading. Thank you very much. Next item.
This is the time for comments from the public on items not on the agenda under council's jurisdiction.
And seeing no requests, public comment for today's meeting is closed. Next item.
Motions for posting and referral.
Motions are posted and referred.
Council has excuses on the desk. Councilmember Galanter requests to be excused March 6th to arrive late. City business meets council policy.
Ms. Galanter is excused.
Councilmember President Padilla requests to be excused March 1st to leave at noon. Personal business meets council policy.
So approved.
Councilmember Weiss requests to be excused Wednesday, March 13th. City business meets council policy.
That is also approved.
That clears the desk.
Any announcements? Any adjourning motions? Please stand for adjourning motions.
Póngase de pie para moción para levantar la sesión.
Ms. Galanter.
Señora Galanti.
Unless you did this yesterday, I have to leave before the end of the meeting. I'd like to ask that we adjourn in memory of Dave Van Ronk, who was a popular but not wildly successful folk singer in the 60s and 70s, and did a lot to spread music that some other people may have made more famous, but he got into more people, and he was a good guy.
Ms. Hahn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise this morning to request that we adjourn our meeting today in the honor of the memory of Mr. Ollie Terrell. Mr. Terrell passed away last week as a result of an aneurysm. He leaves behind his wife Irene and 5 children, 4 daughters and 1 son. Ollie was a hard-working family man. He was a pharmacist by trade, and he helped to establish the Pharmacist Association of the South Bay. He was a long-time member of the Palos Verdes Democratic Club and worked on several of my campaigns, and he's been a big advocate for his community and for those that he believes should serve in public service. His loss will be felt by many of us. So I ask you that you join me in adjourning in the memory of Mr. Ollie Terrell.
Mr. Holden. Any others? Mr. Reyes.
Council President, members of the council, I would like to adjourn in the memory of the 3 children, Juan Santoyo, who's 5 years old, Carla Santoyo, 5 years old, and their baby brother, Christian Raul Calzado, 2 years old. These were the children that passed away last week in a fire in Pico Union on the 1400 block on Malvern Street. The fire occurred at 8:35 a.m. on Tuesday, February 5th, 2002, in a 2-story Victorian house
en una casa de 2
that had been
pisos
converted into a multiple-unit dwelling.
se había hecho
When the fire department arrived, they
en
were not able
unidades
to reach
de
the children
familias cuando llegaron
who
los
were on the second
oficiales de
floor.
la gente del departamento de
They are
bomberos no
survived by their
pudieron
father,
entrar
Raul Calzada,
a
their brother
salvarlos.
Araceli Gonzalez,
La señora
their
Araceli
uncle
González
Jose,
Calzada, su
Hugo
tío
Calzada,
José,
their brothers
Hugo
José
Calzada y sus
Manuel,
hermanos José Manuel,
Erica y Clemente,
Erika
and
Clemente,
Malchanaya.
pues quedaron vivos.
Services were held
Se
yesterday
llevaron
and
a
are
cabo
underway
el
this
servicio de
morning.
funeral ayer y esta
This is one of those
mañana.
incidents
Este
where
es uno de esos
we're to hug the
incidentes
children.
que debemos de ayudar a los niños.
All members.
Gracias.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Actuario, llame presencia.
Thank you all very much. This
Gracias.
meeting is adjourned.
Se levanta.